My cheating fiancée lost it when I publicly exposed her and her affair partner at our wedding. All right, today, I'll tell you all how my wedding came to a sudden stop when I read my vows. So my fiancé and I met through coworkers in a group setting. We had a friend named David, who happened to be my best friend. It was great that he got along well, so I asked him to be my best man at the wedding. My fiancée was really happy when she found out and thought it was a perfect choice. My fiancée was really happy when she found out and thought it was a perfect choice. I had a little suspicion about her excitement, but since she was also friends with him, I didn't think much of it. Fast forward to the week before the wedding. My bride-to-be seemed really excited and was on her phone a lot. I assumed she was just busy planning the wedding. She would stop and ask me about small decisions, and I didn't mind as long as it made her happy. But now, knowing what I know, I feel like she may have made things up to keep me from suspecting she was communicating with another man. My best man to be exact. We had our bachelor parties on the same night, which I thought was cool, but I was really disappointed when my best man called me to say he couldn't make it to the party he had planned for me. He told me his mom was unexpectedly in the hospital and he needed to be with her. I really should have given him the benefit of the doubt, right? I feel so bad now for being heartless and suspicious of him that night. I had a bunch of friends with me. We're an active bunch. So before we went to an upscale lounge downtown, we played some basketball outside and then cleaned up nicely. I felt like a king, and I hope my fiancée felt the same way. It's interesting because we were already living together at the time, but we decided to wait until after the wedding to be intimate, and let me tell you, it was harder than I thought it would be. We took turns sleeping on the pull-out bed in the living room every night, and when I came home after the party, my fiancée was already asleep in our bed, looking like an angel. I tucked her in, but as I looked around I noticed a shiny gold cuff link on the floor next to the bed. It caught my attention because my wife didn't have cuff links and I only had one pair that looked different from the one I found. That got me thinking, could this mean there was another guy in our bedroom? I started rubbing my face and neck in frustration. It was stressing me out, and just then my fiancé's phone buzzed. It was set to vibrate, but I could hear it on the nightstand, so I took a look at her messages, and a conversation with my best man caught my eye. All right, so the last text I saw from him was sent 4 hours ago at 9 o'clock. As I scrolled up, I realized that she had invited him to her bachelorette party, even though that's not how things usually go. But it got worse when I saw her earlier messages. She told him that tonight was going to be their night because the next day she was going to be with me. He asked if he could have her again sometime, and she kind of teased him, saying he could if he tempted her enough. He started asking about her body, and she sent him pictures. They even made plans to hang out one day. When I thought she was at work later, he messaged her asking if they should have done that, and she replied saying she was sure in just an hour. I took 6 screenshots of the worst messages they exchanged, and I planned to read them during the vows. It was going to be awful, just like what she did to me. I deleted all evidence of collecting those messages, and then took some NyQuil to knock myself out. The next morning, she was already gone. She left me a handwritten note saying she left early to get her hair and makeup done. But I knew what was really going on. Picture this. You're all dressed up and excited for a great day, and then someone drops a bombshell calling you a cheater in front of everyone. What a way to ruin things. Right then and there I was bitter. I didn't miss her or want her. I wanted to apologize. I was done with her because I couldn't believe how much I loved her while she had someone else on the side. I put so much effort into looking good, smelling good, and having my hair on point. Part of me felt like it was pointless, but I told myself it was still worth it. I thought about telling my dad what I was going to do, but I didn't want him to talk me out of it or warn others. When I got there, he greeted me outside looking all sharp, but I had one thing on my mind: cufflinks. As a bit of a gamble, I pretended to notice he was missing one, even though I couldn't really tell. He was surprised, and I could see he was embarrassed. He said he must have lost it somewhere. I asked him to take a close look at the one he had, and in case I somehow found his match. His heart was pounding, and he was sweating like crazy. It was so entertaining to see him like that, but I pretended not to know anything. So he showed me the cufflink, and guess what? It was an exact match to the one I had in my pocket at that moment. I looked at him dead serious for a few painful seconds, trying my best not to scream or hit him. He could tell something was up and asked if I was all right. I snapped out of it and put on a fake smile and told him that everything was fine because, hey, I was getting married today. Right then I slapped him hard on the back, making him jump a bit after some mind-numbing mingling in the grand procession. I walked into the venue, but I couldn't help but think that I never wanted a traditional wedding again. It all felt so stupid and meaningless. And just as my almost wife walked down the aisle looking as stunning as ever, all the memories of how we met and our time together flooded my mind. It was so damn unfair, and I couldn't hold back my tears. The people around me noticed that these weren't happy tears. I was devastated. I managed to hold it together until the officiant asked if I wanted to read my vows. That was when I started to feel like I was going to die. At first, people probably wondered what I was up to, but as they listened, they realized that these were flirtatious messages, not something they would be proud of. Things got pretty awkward as they started fidgeting uncomfortably and looking around, realizing that everyone in the building was staring at them. My bride asked me what I was doing and what I was reading on my phone. As I was reading these messages, people started whispering and talking to each other, and my fiancé tried to grab my phone. My best man suddenly walked out, followed by 5 of my groomsmen, and there I was shouting that I had pictures and videos of the messages they had been sending each other and offered to share them with anyone who was interested. That was that. Some people got up and left. The officiant had the nerve to ask if we were still getting married, and I couldn't help but laugh out loud and sarcastically. My ex was now on her knees crying in her white dress at the altar. Her bridesmaids were clueless, just standing there. They're frozen. Maybe some of them knew about her affair with him or saw her being all flirty. It was satisfying to see that no one rushed to comfort her. I had had enough of all the drama at this point. My head was throbbing from it all. I stepped outside to check on my best man. Turns out he was cornered by those 5 guys yelling and screaming at him in disbelief for betraying me like that. At that moment, I was just done with it. All my head was pounding, and I had enough of the whole mess. I got the revenge I wanted, and all I wanted to do now was take a nap. I told those guys to back off and let my best man go, saying that keeping him here was not going to help anything. As they backed off, my almost bride came running out of the venue, being chased by her bridesmaids, who were giving her a hard time and calling her horrible names. Terrible names. She ran behind my best man's car for about 10 yards before he saw her in the mirror and stopped. She got in and they drove off. I turned around and saw a bunch of our wedding guests watching the whole scene. It was like they were in a grief counseling session, offering me hugs and words of advice. It was weird, but at least they were there for me. And well, these people weren't their friends anymore. They both lost the support and contact they used to have from our circle of family and friends. They ended up moving out of state together, but the relationship didn't last. They ended up moving out of state together, but their relationship didn't last long. They only lived together for a year before my ex moved back in with her disappointed and critical parents. What a waste of time it all was. After all that mess, she had the audacity to ask me out again, and I just called her crazy. As for my best friend, he never reached out. But honestly, that's okay. I can't be friends with him anymore. Anyway, luckily my friends and family were there for me, never let me give up hope or get too down. I haven't started dating again yet, but I have my eye on a good girl I'm thinking of asking out. It's crazy to think that someone would be committed to just me, but my ex planted a seed of doubt in my mind. So now I take my time getting close to people, asking them anything I want to know, and sharing my past experiences with them so they understand where I'm coming from. Second story. My wife and I had been married for 10 years. Our anniversary party was coming up, and I couldn't believe how lucky I was to have been able to find a guy like you. I couldn't believe how lucky I was to have found someone to be with for so long. We knew everything about each other, and were best friends. We believed that our signs were soul mates, and maybe that's why our relationship was so strong. I noticed that her sign was associated with cheating, but I ignored that and trusted her for the past 10 years. We had a daughter 3 years into our marriage. My wife worked in the same career all those years, and she was a very good employee. I really felt like I had found true love, and I thought she would always be there for me. The night she came home after getting her raise, she seemed excited and overwhelmed by the good news, but there was something in her expression that made me think she was worried about something else. I asked her if she was having trouble believing it. I asked if she was having trouble believing in her own success, and she forced a laugh and said yes, but I could tell she wasn't convincing me. I sensed something else was going on. But when I tried to ask, she brushed it off and said she was fine, just pleasantly surprised. Cheating didn't even cross my mind at that point. Then before she went into our bedroom, she said something weird about her boss being incredible and how lucky she was. The next day was our anniversary party. As we were getting ready, she got a call from her boss. She excused herself to take the call in her office, something she usually did to take notes for later. Little did she know I was sneaking up near the door to EES to drop in on the conversation. At first, she thanked him again for the raise, but then it got quiet. She whispered how happy she was to thank him properly, called him amazing, and said she wanted to be with him again. Then she asked him about the security cameras in his office to make sure they didn't get caught doing whatever they were doing, or they would be fired. It was all so clear to me, I felt like bursting into the room and tell her I overheard everything, but instead I decided to make an announcement at our anniversary party. I needed to do something that would push me to confront her and go through with the divorce. I was pretty sure she had just confessed out loud to sleeping with her boss in his office. I stood frozen outside the door waiting for her to come out. She seemed really worried when she saw me standing so close, trying to act like everything was fine. So close I tried to act like everything was okay. I forced a fake smile. She asked if I was ready, and we left. I felt like a zombie, and she was restless. She lit a cigarette because she gets like that when she's stressed during the drive. She tried to ask again if I was okay, and I knew she wanted to know if I overheard their conversation. We arrived at the venue, and I turned to her and said, "Let's go celebrate our 10-year marriage, wife." My voice sounded hollow. My voice sounded robotic, lacking any anger. She knew I overheard her, but she couldn't bring herself to talk to me about it inside. She sat there sweating while I took my time to calmly greet our friends and family, pretending everything was fine. Our 7-year-old daughter was also there, as my parents had given us some time alone for our anniversary. Seeing all our loved ones and our daughter made my wife start to itch and look really uncomfortable. Her face turned red, and people started to notice, circling around her, saying she didn't look well, even though she insisted she was fine. It was obvious to everyone that she was sweating like crazy. I saw this as my chance to speak up. I raised my voice and told everyone that my wife was having an affair with her boss. Everyone was shocked, and she ended up fainting. Thankfully, our family and I were able to get out of the house and go to the hospital where she was being treated for her injuries and her condition. Luckily, our family and friends were not heartless and rushed to help her by fanning her and putting a cold cloth on her forehead the old-fashioned way, I guess. When she came to, she looked so ashamed and couldn't say much. She finally managed to say she wanted to go home. I thanked everyone for coming and then took my daughter home. We went to bed, and my wife tried to call a few times. A few other people called, but I was asleep and didn't hear any of it. Later, I learned that one of my wife's cousins let her stay at their house. But that wasn't all. I decided to email the HR department of her company about what had happened. A week later, they got back to me thanking me for the information and letting me know that they had taken appropriate action. After that, my wife called me. She started by calling me a low slime bag for ruining both her and her boss's careers that they had worked for all their lives. I called her a low slime bag for ruining our marriage after I put in 10 hard years for her and our daughter. How could she do that and still expect our daughter to look up to her as a mother? She didn't reach out to me until visitation with our daughter started after the divorce. But you know what? I've already found a woman who has her own daughter and will do things for me that my ex would never have even considered. It's bittersweet, though, because I realize I wasted a lot of time trusting her. Third story, I guess I should call him my ex-best friend now, but it's hard because I don't know what to do. I guess I should call him my ex-best friend now, but it's hard to accept that our friendship is over. Just like how we spent so many years building a strong bond, and now it's all turned to dust. We've known each other since high school. About 15 years ago, he was like a brother to me, and even like a son to my parents. We practically lived at each other's houses back then, and our families were really close. We went on trips together and had so many memorable experiences. He was the best man at my wedding, and I was supposed to be the best man at his wedding too. We have been through a lot together, helping each other out in tough times and having deep conversations about life, love, and everything else. He was always there for me when I needed him, giving me solid advice and being a true friend. It is hard to put into words how much it hurts to lose him because he was such a big part of my life. Losing him might be as painful as losing my brother. Losing him may be just as painful as losing my wife. It's a huge blow to lose someone who was always there for me and who I considered a true friend, only to find out that he betrayed me like this. I've been married to my wife for almost 5 years, but we've been together for 7. I still remember the day we first met. It was love at first sight. She was absolutely stunning with her piercing blue eyes and infectious laugh. I was surprised when she agreed to go out with me, because I thought she was out of my league. But as we got to know each other, I fell even more in love with her. She had this incredible passion for life and helping others. Her kindness and warmth to everyone just made me love her even more. Being married to her was amazing, and I always felt that our marriage was more than just good. It was great. I made sure I didn't let myself go as a husband. I took care of myself, I ate well, and I never forgot it. I never forgot our anniversaries and special dates when she spoke to me. I really listened and paid attention. I took a real interest in her life because she was important to me, but at the same time I gave her space and didn't become too needy or clingy. I pulled my weight around the house and cleaned as much as she did. Our sex life seemed great too. As far as I could tell, I loved her and cared for her the way a husband should. I even made an effort to keep seeing her after we got married. I can honestly say I never took her for granted, but despite all that, I still find myself wondering what went wrong. I keep asking myself, if there was something else I could have done. Did I do too much? Did she think I was a pushover? Did she lose respect for me? It's hard to figure out what happened. I'm not saying our marriage was flawless. We had fights, but they were never serious. The trouble started when my best friend broke up with his girlfriend. He took it pretty hard and was upset. I talked to him about it, but then my wife asked if I would mind if she went out for coffee with him to talk to him and give him a woman's perspective. I told her it was okay with me. After all, she and my best friend were friends too. We used to go on couples trips with him and his girlfriend, and they would hang out a lot because he was always around me. At the time, I didn't think anything of it because their friendship seemed totally appropriate. I do remember him complimenting my wife's looks when we first started dating and got married, but it was nothing more than that. There were no inappropriate jokes or anything like that. My wife might have said he was good looking, but it didn't happen. At some point, but it didn't raise any red flags for me. Even now when I think about it, I still don't see any signs that they could be more than friends. When my wife came back from the coffee meeting, she seemed a little upset. She was really angry about his ex and said he deserved better. I tried to comfort her, saying he's young and will heal in time, but she seemed really upset about it. I may not remember every detail of this conversation, but the gist of it was that my wife was being vague and not giving many specifics, but it didn't seem strange to me. At the time, I thought she was just being protective of my boyfriend, which is how I would have acted since he is my buddy. After that night, my wife's behavior started to get weird. She didn't do anything overtly suspicious, but she became vague about her plans when she said she was going to see a friend or run an errand. I'm not a controlling person, and she had never given me any reason to doubt her, so I didn't make a big deal out of it at the time. It didn't seem weird to me. My friend was acting weird too, but I chalked it up to his recent breakup and feeling down. I would invite him to hang out, but he would always turn me down, which was unusual. He would never give a specific reason, just say he was busy. I saw less and less of him, and when we did see each other, he seemed different. It's hard to describe, but he didn't seem as comfortable as he used to be. One day he sent me a message asking me to come over to his house, saying he needed to talk and get some things off his chest. I knocked on the door and he answered. I tried to make some light conversation and jokes, but he completely ignored me. He then asked me to go into the living room, and there I found my wife sitting on his couch. At that moment, I may not have fully realized what was going on, but I felt like I was in the middle of something. As soon as I walked in, she started crying, and he wasted no time in telling me that there was no easy way to say it. They were in love and wanted to be together. I was completely shocked and felt like I wasn't even present at that moment. When I finally started to gather myself, they both tried to apologize, saying they still loved me and regretted what had happened. They insisted it was an emotional affair that just happened, not something they planned. They knew they were wrong, but their feelings for each other could not be ignored. They promised nothing. I don't know if that's true or not, and honestly, I'm not sure it even matters anymore. And that's where we are now. Since that day, I've received numerous texts from both of them, filled with apologies, my wife asking if I'm okay, and assuring me that she still cares about me. She decided to move out of our house, and I didn't bother to ask where she was going. Later, a friend of mine revealed that she moved in with my former girlfriend as soon as she left, which was a few months ago. I tried to avoid her, but she asked if she could talk to me for a moment. Then she told me that she and my former girlfriend were trying to have a baby together. She wanted to give me a heads up so that we could handle it as we go through our divorce. She felt it was important to tell me herself, because I deserve to know. It really hurt to hear how fast she's moving on. We had plans to have kids together, but she wanted to wait until she was 30. Now he's going to be the one to father her children, and I have to witness it. I'm here looking for any advice you can give me. I don't know how to deal with her getting pregnant. I feel like it's going to be a constant source of pain once it happens, and I'm so jealous of him because he's living the life I wanted with her. I also know that her pregnancy means it's really the end for us. There won't be any chance of reconciliation after that. I thought about suggesting counseling, but I doubt she would be. I also don't know how to process all of this. I can't wrap my head around how the two of them did this or how I didn't see it coming. I don't understand why she left when we seemed happy. It makes me question everything when you can't trust your wife and best friend, and even a marriage you worked so hard for doesn't work. A marriage that you worked so hard for doesn't last. It feels like nothing is real and life is just one big lie. Life can be so unfair. Sometimes the last few days have been surprisingly better for me since my wife left. I'm starting to think about what the future holds. I don't have much of an update, but I wanted to keep you all updated. I've decided to reach out to my former girlfriend's ex and get her side of the breakup. Maybe I'll find out something useful, maybe not, but I feel like I should try. I've talked to a lawyer, but I need to get serious about finding a good one. I'll start looking more next week. Active, thankfully, my friends and family have given me some recommendations to consider. I don't know exactly when, but I'm pretty sure I'll start counseling soon. My mental state is not in a good place right now, and I know I need professional help to get through this. Boyfriend, some of you asked why I didn't confront him when they told me about their affair. It bothered me because I realized that I never expressed how much they hurt me and how I feel they need to know even if they don't care. Many of you gave suggestions on how to deal with the situation. I'm going to make some changes around the house to create a more comfortable environment until I can move out. I'm also going to keep myself busy, but the hardest parts so far have been the nights when I'm alone and everything gets quiet. Like right now. Update. Many of you suggested that I should contact my ex-friend, let's call her Yef for convenience, to see if she knew anything about his affair with my wife. I reached out to her, but she confirmed Yef's story about the reasons for their breakup. I asked if she noticed anything strange or had any suspicions that he was involved with another woman before they broke up, and she said she had no reason to ECT anything. I believe her because she seemed genuinely shocked that they ended up together, and I don't think she has any reason to lie to me about it. Has any reason to lie to me. In my previous post I mentioned writing a letter to my EF and wife for closure. Many of you advised against it and I decided to follow that advice. I wrote the letter for myself, but I didn't send it. I think you guys were right that they wouldn't care anyway, so there was no point in sending it. A few weeks ago I finally chose a lawyer to represent me. He was recommended to me and I trusted him to protect my interests and ensure a fair result in divorce. Last week I officially filed for divorce. It was a hard day, but I knew it was necessary. There is still a part of me that daydreams about her coming back and admitting her mistake, but I know that is not realistic. I can't base my life on a fantasy that will never come true. I felt a bit better leading up to the filing, but the actual filing took that boost away, and I felt more depressed again. I considered personal counseling as you suggested, but I have not been able to do that yet, as you guys suggested. But I decided it wasn't the best time for it. Fortunately, I've started a new project at work, and with the changes I've made in my life, I've been keeping busy, which helps. It may sound crazy, but there's a part of me that doesn't really want to get better. I feel like this sadness is natural when a marriage ends. Regarding the alienation of affection suit, I decided not to pursue it, even though many of you wanted me to, my lawyer explained. It wouldn't be easy, and there are no guarantees. Besides, I don't care about the money. Even if I won, it wouldn't change anything. My main goal now is to wrap this up as soon as possible so I can move away and start over. The only other interesting thing is that after my wife got her papers, she contacted me and asked to meet and talk. I haven't responded, and I'm not sure if I will. I don't think there is anything left for us to say to each other, and I doubt there is anything she could tell me that I want to say. I've been doing more running, reading, trying yoga and meditation. Yoga was cool, but meditation wasn't really my thing. Work has kept me busy, which is a good distraction. I've been thinking about learning French, but I'm putting that on hold for now as I have other hobby projects going on. I've also taken up fishing again. I'm just trying to keep busy, so I don't have too much alone time with myself. I got a body pillow for my bed, which surprisingly helped me relax more. I'm still in the guest room, but I might move back to the master bedroom soon. It doesn't make much difference at this point, though, as I'm still having trouble sleeping. That's pretty much it. I've been reading more about failed relationships, got some good advice from recommended sites in a YouTube video. The guy in the video said that if someone moves on quickly after the breakup, they probably weren't the one for you. It made me rethink how I saw my wife. I used to think she was the one, but maybe she wasn't if she could do all that. He also had some great insights about memories and accepting when someone you cared about becomes just a memory. That's all for now. It's not the happiest or most eventful update. That's life, I guess.